Hello, it's Karen Burniston here with my monthly designer challenge video. The theme this month is Picture This, and the challenge is to use a photo or photos in the card. And I wanted to show off our new Photo Collage Pop-up die set. So this is a new die set that will be shipping mid-July 2019, and you can check out all of our die designs at karenburniston.com. You always choose your card size with our dies, but for a photo collage you want at least an A2 size card. So that is a piece of cardstock cut to 8.5 by 5.5, scored in the center. And then to that I added 2 paper panels. Each of them are 4 inches by 5.25 inches. There are 13 individual dies in the set, and you want to grab the 3 of them that will be needed for the pop-up. So that's the spinner die, and then you've got the ones that cut the 4 arms. And for cardstock, I'm going to recommend a smooth cardstock. Heavier the better. So if you can find that 100-pound smooth cardstock, that's my favorite, but you could also do it with 80, but I think you're definitely going to want smooth. Okay, you can die cut those all at the same time using any die cutting machine that can accommodate a wafer thin die, and today I am using a Spellbinders Platinum 6. Okay, I tried to be as user-friendly as possible in the design of this die. So on the front of the die, it's actually going to press 4 dots into the top. If you can't see them very well, you're probably looking at the back. So when you look at the front, you should be able to see 4 dots that have been pressed into that piece. I'm going to highlight them now with a black pen so you can really see where they are. Obviously, if you're using your die set, you'll be able to see just by looking at yours. Now here's another great trick for when you're learning this die, and that is to just take a pen or pencil and start drawing arrows to help you place the arms. So I'll start at a dot and I'm drawing the long way horizontally on the top and the bottom dots. So see, that way it's basically in the same direction as the notch. Same thing up here. Go out this way. Okay, then I have 2 more dots, and those are the ones for the vertical arms. So I'm going to start at the dot and draw down, and then start at the dot and draw up. So basically those are going to be always outward from the center. And you can see that I now have arrows going in all 4 directions, one attached to each dot. I'm going to put a couple pen marks on the back of the piece, and the way I do that is I follow my long arrow, and then I see over here where I'm holding it, that corner, I want to just on the back just add any kind of little pen mark. Okay, so I followed the arrow and then got to that corner. So up here, I'm going to follow the arrow and then get to this corner over here. So just 2 pen marks on the back. You'll see they'll kind of be opposite. So on the left side, they'll be low. The right side, it'll be high. Okay, for training the folds, I like to fold as a mountain. So I fold away from myself, up the middle fold, and then bring it back. Then I do the diagonals. Fold it away from myself, bring it back. The other diagonal, away from myself, bring it back. Okay, now it's easy to see those folds. The final 2 are just the 2 that bring these 2 wings sort of to the center and then bring them back. Okay, so really easy folding on this one. And then to train this, we want to establish the mountain folds that are up the middle. So I've got my fingers underneath there to start bringing those little sections up like little mountain folds. See how I'm pinching it? As I close the card, I want those mountains to come inward, collapsing into the piece. If you've ever done the twist panel, if you've ever done the twist circle, you're familiar with that motion. Okay, time to add some adhesive up underneath this piece so that I can get it installed inside the card. And on the back, it's these flat sections that are going to get adhesive, but I'm going to avoid where the 2 pen marks are. So the side that has the pen mark, I actually want to stop short with my tape. I do recommend tape for this. I'm going to use a thin red line or tacky tape. You could use score tape. It doesn't have to be the thin stuff. You could definitely use wider tape. But what's most important is that you get right up next to those diagonal folds. So I'm using my skinny tape, and you see I'm stopping short of the side that has the pen mark. And then to fill in, I'm actually going to cheat and just go with a little bit wider tape. But I could have used the skinny stuff. It doesn't matter. I'm just basically trying to have plenty of tape in those flat areas, especially up next to those diagonal folds, but stopping short of the side that has the pen mark on it. By stopping short, we're actually able to give the pop-up a little room to lift up right there and there, and that helps with the twist. Okay, I want to remove the liner from the tape so that 1/2 of the pop-up is sticky, and it does not matter which half. I just want to install 1/2 inside the card. So first thing I want to do is make sure it still remembers those folds, so I can still collapse everything down. Those mountains go into the piece. And then when I open it up, I can just get right down over the fold, looking through that hole in the center, looking out on the ends and making sure that I feel like I'm vertically centered. And what I'm looking to do is to have one half, the sticky half, stuck down inside the card so that the fold of the card is going right through that center hole. I can look down through it and see. The reason I'm only sticking one half down is because later on I need to get those two notches together, and it is much easier to do if I can lift this piece up to do it. So that's the only reason I'm not sticking it down yet. It just helps with the assembly. Okay, opening everything up wide, I can now get in there and add glue to add the arms. So it's real easy to do because you just start at the dot and you just follow your arrow with the glue. I do recommend glue for this. I suppose you could use tape, but then you kind of have to trim it, to match the edges and stuff. So glue is real easy for this. Now I'm using my LINECO neutral pH adhesive in my fine tip bottle. We do sell both of those items on our website. So I'm just looking for the arm to have the right taper on the end so that it can just line up right with the tapered end, and then just follow and cover up that pen mark and all that glue and shoot out, in this case, towards the right. And you can see it's a little bit down from the notch, or in this case, I guess a little bit up from the notch, but just a little distance between the notch. You definitely want that arm a little closer to the notch than to the bottom, but not right up next to it either. So you can see just leave a little space. So glue starts at the dot, goes out over the top of the arrow. You find an arm and make sure that it's oriented so that the taper lines up perfectly with that cut edge. I'm down just a little bit from the notch. So you can see there's just a little bit of distance between the arm and the notch. It's just a little horizontal arm. Same thing with the vertical arms. The adhesive goes on the dot and then out to cover the arrow. Now I can't just go from the top on this arm straight down because I'll cover up my upper part, which I need to be able to fold in later. So I have to be able to snake that arm under. So here's what I'm talking about. I snake it under and then get it over the adhesive and make sure that the taper is along the fold line, but don't get it down in the fold line so that it's going to jam up in there. It can be a little bit away from the fold. That's fine. But that'll just help you make sure that it's nice and vertical. That taper really helps that. But yeah, just get it up next to the fold line. It doesn't have to actually get jammed down into the fold. Final one, same thing. Make sure it's under this piece and then into the glue up next to the fold, but not crossing the fold, and just make sure it's nice and vertical. So now I have the arms attached. They're covering up all those arrows I drew. Okay, so the top section folds in, the bottom section folds up, and those two notches come together. But in order to get them slid together, what you need to do is pick up the piece, and then I think what's easiest is to just kind of grab below the notch, and so you're basically kind of twisting the whole entire platform until you can get those notches to line up and slide together. So you're trying not to just start adding folds anywhere, you're just trying to twist the whole piece so that you can get those notches together. And then slide them until they're straight, and then once they're all the way slid together, right here, see, now I can actually press down that other side. Now to get access to the tape liner easily to be able to remove it, you can back fold the card. And that was a trick that one of my students, Amy, last week taught me. I thought that was very clever. Okay, getting all of the tape liner off. Now that side is sticky, so I'm going to get the card back flat again and then just carefully press down that side, just making sure everything still looks like it's all lined up. The notches are all the way together. Okay, it's probably not going to immediately start lifting for you because it's been flattened while we've been assembling. So the best thing to do is get your fingers in the fold of the card, get up underneath the pop-up so that you can start lifting. You're going to see it start twisting as soon as you start lifting those mountains. You're also going to see the section that we didn't glue down and how much it likes that little bit of give to help it twist. Once it gets going, then you should be able to close the card, and that will train the pop-up. And you can see that little pop-up platform. It's so generic. I like to think of it as like a little pinwheel spinner. That's what it makes me think of. And you could add anything to that pop-up. But the die set does come with 2 photo frames and 2 rectangles. Those are identical pieces, just doubled so that you can cut faster. And to make a typical photo collage, you're going to cut 8 photo frames and 8 backing rectangles. The photo size is 1 1/4 inch square if you want it to perfectly match that opening. But you can also take bigger photos and then use the die to go in and cut out a section that you want. Or you can cut it a little bit larger and just glue it behind the frame. Now what I'm going to do is use these photo collage prints from Walgreens. The sizing on that is just a little bit smaller than 1.25 inches square, and so I'm going to have just a little border around my photos when I use those. Now I'm going to post a separate video that just shows you exactly how to create those collage prints at Walgreens. So since I don't need to sandwich the photo between the two layers, I can go ahead and just attach each one of my photo frames to my black backing pieces. And then I'm going to trim out my photos, which like I say are just a little bit smaller than 1.25 inches. I think they're about 1 1/8 inches. And then when I glue those into each of the openings, I'll have just that little thin black border around the photos. Okay, time to build my collage. I like to start with these two platforms in the center. So I add my glue to the platform. I'm going to do the upper one first. And then that's usually my glory shot. So whatever my favorite photo is would usually go in that spot. That's right in the center. And I like to line it up so that it lines up with the left edge. So the left little straight edge just goes right along the edge of the photo. And I don't have it so low that it's bunching in the fold. You know, it might just be a little bit above the fold. And then I always check them. So now I'm going to add my glue to my bottom platform, and so that I get a little bit of a staggered look, which is part of the fun of this die, is that everything is kind of staggered and making a collage everywhere, I line it up with the right side. So the straight side is on the right for that one. Okay, I'm going to switch to a tape runner. I'm going to slide something underneath my upper arm and then add just a little tape runner out on the very end of the arm. And the nonstick sheet will just keep me from getting tape runner on my card. Now, what I want to do is I want to place the photo on this one very high because I want it to be visible, and I also want it to be able to clear so that it can close. It also needs to cheat towards the right. So see, it's not centered, it's more towards the right, and that's because it needs to flip over towards the right and scrape right along the back of that first photo. Okay? If I find that it's a little catchy, you know, maybe it's scraping too much across the back of that photo, because I used a tape runner, I can go in there and carefully pick it up and maybe move it a little bit more to the right. If I move it a little bit more to the right, I have a little bit more clearance between it and that center photo. So it's always a matter of guessing, you know, putting something on there, checking it, and going very slowly, because as soon as something starts catching, you want to pull it back off of there again. You don't want to start, you know, adding folds and things to your pop-up by trying to force it. Now the one on the bottom is do the opposite of the one on the top. So it's going to be very low, and you can see I'm cheating now to the left, whereas that one flips to the right, this one flips to the left. So it has to scrape along behind the back of that other photo in the center. Okay, now I'm going to do the side arm photos. Now these ones don't flip over, they actually just swing down close to the fold. So you can see as the card closes, it's going to bring that arm down close to the fold. So I have to make sure I think of that when I'm placing this photo. It can't be too low, or else when I close it, it'll cross the fold, which it can't do. So for the right arm, I need my photo placed on the arm more up. See, so there's not as much photo below the arm. So again, I'm putting my nonstick sheet underneath so I can add some tape runner, and then I'm going to place my photo on there just with a small touch so that I can go and check it. So I close the card and I see if it stays in the card and it stays out of the fold, and it's doing great. Okay, so I hit it on the first try. That's awesome. Now on the other side, the left arm, now I have to think about the fact that the upper part of the photo is going to slide into the fold. So everything's kind of opposite. Whatever you do on the right, you kind of do the opposite on the left. So with this one, actually I'm going to change colors here. I'm going to do the white one, I think. Yeah, okay, so I want not as much photo above the arm this time, because I want it to be able to slide near the fold. Now, I do have to watch and see that I haven't put it so far out on the arm that it sticks out of the card when the card is closed. So I go very slowly, I test it, oops, too high. Now it's easy to think if that was too high that it has to be lowered, but it doesn't. It needs to move in because of the way that this closes. So I need to carefully remove it. That's why tape runner's nice for this, and move it inwards a little bit, in towards the center, because that will actually lower it in the closed position. And I was close, but it might also be an angle situation, you know, where you could go in and kind of change the angle of it a little bit and see if you can get it in. This is the times when you can see that if you were using a larger card, then you may have more room, but I wanted to show that you can fit an 8 photo collage in an A2 card. You just have to take your time placing everything so that you can keep it within the card limits. And you can see how well this works with 6 photos. There's nothing that says you have to keep adding photos. It looks great just like this. If you've got 6 great photos, you could be done. But I'm using 8 photos, so I'm going to show you where I like to put the final 2. I attach them to the first 2 photos. So on the upper one, I go on the left side, and then on the bottom one, I go on the right side. And I like to do them at an angle, and they do have a fair bit of overlap so that they can stay within the card limits. Now the whole concept of this card is that it's like blam, a collage of photos going every which way. And you'll notice that the top and the bottom photos have a little wiggle to them as the card opens. If that's something that doesn't please you, you can go in and add a second arm behind there, and that will stiffen it up and it won't wobble as much as the card opens. So it's really just an aesthetic preference. If you like it to be a little bit, solid so that it doesn't wobble as you open the card, just go in and add a second arm. So now look at the difference now between the upper photo and the bottom. So the bottom one wiggles and the upper one doesn't. So I'll go in and just add another arm to the bottom photo as well, just to stiffen that up. And again, that really is just about your personal preference. It works either way. Sometimes the wiggle is kind of fun. Because it's meant to be a fun collage like a bulletin board, there are push pins and binder clips as decorator pieces that come included with the set. Now to assemble the binder clips, you just cut the handle parts out of a mirror cardstock and then add glue to the long parts, and then you'll want to line those up with the bumpy part of the binder clip, and then just get the little shorty ends kind of kicked to the back, and that's how you assemble the binder clip. It actually looks quite real. On the push pins, there are 2 identical dies in the set that will each cut 2 push pins at a time. That way you can cut it out of silver and out of whatever color you want to use at the same time. And then in this case, the red one, I cut off the tip off the red one and then just glued it over the top of the full silver push pin. There is a small word die in the set that says smile, and that's sized to fit on those photo frames. And then the final decorator die is the ticket. And I like to stack 2 layers of cardstock when I die cut it, and that really presses in that word ticket and the numbers so you can really see them. And you absolutely have to pay attention to where you put these things in your photo collage. If you've got a beautiful working photo collage, the last thing you want to do is create catch points with your embellishments. So just always go very slowly as you're testing a position, and just be willing to pull it off of there and move it if it creates a catch point. The backing rectangles have decorative press dots on them. For this one, I decided just to use a pen and fill it in as stitch marks, just connecting every other dot so it kind of matched the paper. And then I added another photo on the right-hand side, and that finishes the inside of my card. Now you don't have to fill every photo frame with photos. You might do a mixture of, say, some of our charms or animals. So the Memory Charms has a great little camera die, and I used that on the front of the card to fill one of the frames. And then 2 more photos, more of those same embellishments, and the word hello came out of our word set 6. So really just a repeat of what's going on inside. That's my favorite way to do card fronts, to just kind of repeat the same elements and use up some of my leftover materials. Now this card works wonderfully just the way it is right now, but I kind of like to balance the weight a little bit. I just like it better in my hands when the back of the card kind of matches the weight of the front. So to do that, I'm just going to take my leftover cardstock. I've already stamped it with my little Made in Texas stamp, and then just cut that to that same little smaller panel and glue that to the back. And that was nothing about function. It was all just about having it feel the same on both sides of the card. Okay, so that's the finished Photo Collage Pop-up card. I know the video went a little long this month, but I wanted to go over it in detail since it is a brand new die. Remember, it's not shipping until mid-July 2019, but we are taking pre-orders on our website, and a lot of your favorite stores probably are as well. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can find out information about purchasing these dies, as well as links to all my other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.